Welcome everyone to At the Bar podcast. I am your host, Brett Shuck Norris, and I'm here with our very special guest, Tony Williams. And as always, at the bar with me is Stacy, and streaming in from Sacramento, California is Patrick, and you'll be seeing him on the big screen back here as well as the camera. And obviously, since we're at the bar, we got to get started with a tasty beverage.
Tasty.
So
yeah,
Tony,
don't make a shitty tasting beverage. Make a tasty beverage for sure.
Exactly, a very tasty beverage. So for Tony, who's a non-alcoholic, we have Guinness NA.
So I know, Tony, you used to do a thing like every January you'd quit for a month, and then you'd quit until you let it go to like February one year. And I follow you on Facebook, so then I think it graduated to March, and now it's just like I'm not going back. There's no point, right? Is that kind of what's going on?
That's exactly what happened. For about 15 years, I did dry Jan, and then it turned into I would add 10 days on, each year after a few years of just doing January, and then it turned into going through April and then into May, and then a couple years ago, it wasn't even a conscious decision at the start of the year, but May 10th came around. I was going to jump off after that, and then I'm like, I don't think so, and I just stuck with it.
Did you do it as a way just to kind of exercise your discipline as a person and not get too shitty and I took a 7-year break once, but for other reasons. But it's just it's good to test yourself, I guess, right?
Jail will do that, huh? Right, Patrick?
It's not in jail.
7-year stint.
Prison.
So
Hey, it was alleged. I was never convicted. Okay.
Patrick, you're the DJ. You can cue up Tool's prison sex.
Yeah, right.
all right, so my beverage of choice, and we're going to have a beverage for you as well. Did you want to do a Strongbow or a Guinness?
I'll do a Guinness.
Okay. We're going to have to grab a glass for you from upstairs. And our assistant will be back with that. But for those of you watching, I used to work at an Irish pub, and we would do something called my favorite is a poor man's black velvet. So at home you can do this as long as you have the widget, and just pour in your favorite cider.
Okay, so wait. When you were bartending, did they have ciders?
Yeah, absolutely.
What did they have?
Easier on tap, Magners. And here's your assistant. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you, Gene.
So we'd have Guinness and Magners.
So when did the ciders come out anyway at the bar? Because I don't remember them.
Ciders were always part of the things. Part of the poor man's black velvet is that Guinness back in the day, back in the turn of the century, was an expensive drink, and cider, which is fermented apple, rotten apples, basically was quite cheap. So in order to get your Guinness and have something a little bit cheaper, what they would do is they would put the cider beer first. And so at home, when you're doing this, you're going to want to have one of these, a spoon, and you're going to kind of get it down in there, and you're just going to lightly pour the Guinness off of that spoon. And as you can see, it's starting to cascade a little bit, so you have a little bit of a separation.
I just always remember that with black and tans.
Yeah, black and tan, same thing. You have Irish black and tan, which is Smithwick's in Guinness. Black and tan, Harp. You can do any kind of beer that can kind of split this stuff. And because I didn't pour this right away, you have a little bit more, but you can kind of see that split down there, the separation. So
and these are nitrogen charged, correct?
Nitrogen, yeah, they're a little widget in there, and that's kind of what makes the separation. So that is the poor man's black velvet done at home. Again, when you're at the bar, they pour it. The Guinness.
It's not for a poor man because it's $17.50 to buy one.
when we went to Jeffrey Tate, when he did the Mind Crime deal, it was for 2 drinks was $28,
Yep.
$14 a drink, and I'm like, it's been a long time since I've been at a bar.
And that's actually cheap. That's coming off cheap because if you go to the Dome or if you go to a game, they're up in the 20s and stuff. So
cheers.
Nice to meet you. Cheers there, Patrick out there.
Sláinte.
Thanks. I had to make my own
Cheers,
cocktail, but that's
Cheers,
okay.
Gene. Cheers, Gene.
Because I drank at OD's for so many years with Brett and the rest of the staff down there. It was always sláinte.
And I'm sure Stacy's going to want to have a little backup.
Oh yeah, of course.
So,
Oh, those are nice little. I like those little molds for
ice cubes.
Yeah, did you see the new ones?
I have not.
They have all sorts of different kinds.
So what we have here to go with our Guinness is a little tasty Jameson cold brew coffee flavored whiskey. So, Patrick, what are you having over there?
I've got me the Golden State Cider. It's mighty dry. They have several different versions of this. They have like one that's super dry. It's called Brute, I think. And then just doing a little sipping of the Jim Beam out of a little neat glass.
Very
Jim
nice.
Beam neat.
Very nice.
Beam neat.
I would be sipping some French Symbol, but some reason my bottle disappeared.
Who did that to
Someone
you?
got into the liquor cabinet.
Yeah, that certain somebody. So
She's good for it. She'll pay you back.
Yeah, she's good for it. All right. So, Tony, for our folks out there, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, and what brought you into the music scene?
Well, I like long walks on the beach and candlelit dinners. And I've had a crush on Patrick Olson for 25 years.
I think we all have.
Hey,
No,
you guys
I,
were both part of my wedding, which is kind of cool, right?
We were, yes. It was fantastic. Tony played guitar, and I sat behind the bar and I bartended. And
That's right.
man, it was amazing music, as always.
What a waste of time that turned out to be.
We all had a glorious time.
Well,
I got divorced. That's the joke. Okay.
well, it was good for a while.
Yeah, now it's good. It's all good.
So I mean,
No regret.
I remember meeting you when you had hair down to your ass,
Mm-hmm.
and you played like metal, like rah, metal. Yep. And I remember that, Tony. And then I didn't see you for years later, and then you got your haircut, and then you were still playing with Stasia.
Yep.
That metal group with Cristobal.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of met again and kind of rekindled the friendship and went on from there. But I remember the metal years.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of confused a little bit because I was reading a little bit of your bio and it said something about country in there.
Yep.
So is that part of the not drinking alcohol anymore? You getting your life back and when you play that album backwards?
I jumped on with a group needing a guitarist and backing vocalist from 2014 to 2019, and that was in the country-ish realm. It was country rock, but we would do a lot of country festivals. So for 5 years, we were in the country festival circuit every summer, playing alongside Toby Keith and Carrie Underwood and Tim McGraw.
Oh wow!
And
Let's back up a little bit. Where are you from originally here? We've never met. We've never met.
Yeah.
You guys know each other, so
I grew up in Eden Prairie.
okay.
And spent a lot of time in Edina at a few homes, and then ended up buying recently in Spring Lake Park.
Okay.
So.
Oh, we're neighbors then. I live
Yeah.
in Fridley, so.
Oh yeah, yep,
And then you met these cats at the bar.
yeah. Basically, I feel like I met Brett at Fridays downtown.
Yep.
And he would. We can't get in trouble now for it. But I had an ID that spoke on my behalf, saying I was 21 or older.
Yeah.
So I knew I was safe going there for drinks.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, I mean, him and Eric Day and Greg, who was in Eric's band. A lot of us would go to Fridays on the weekends.
Mm-hmm. Just for context, Eric Day, he was the drummer for a band called Black Flood Diesel,
Mm-hmm.
and he bartended at TGI Fridays, and then that's kind of was his side gig. And then a singer would come in quite a bit, whom we all know pretty well still. And great band, and a few of the members of that band went on to be guitar players in from Black Flood Diesel into American Head Charge when they were a thing. But Tony's band Stacia, this metal band, was
that your first band, Stacia?
We could call it the third band.
The third band. Okay. We'll get that information.
Chronological order, but
right. So what was the first band?
First band was Lord.
Okay.
Yep, Lord of All Desires. We started that technically, I think, late '96, early '97.
So how old were you in this time frame here?
I mean, I was probably 15 when we started getting our,
So your music love goes young.
Yeah.
When did you start? What was your first instrument that you started playing?
It was well, technically, I got a keyboard.
Okay.
Right before guitar, but guitar, I definitely.
Electric, acoustic.
It was an electric to start, and then I got acoustic not long after that. But guitar, I took to a lot faster than keyboard/piano.
Okay.
There's part of me that has maybe some regret. I didn't spend more time on the piano in those early days because I struggle with it now, and I feel like I could be a lot better with it if I had kind of stuck with that earlier on. But
so how old is this? When you really started music, or when did you get your first guitar?
So yeah, Grandma got me the guitar for Christmas. I was 10.
Well, okay.
And
now, did you hop right on it? Because if I got a guitar at 10 years old, it'd probably sit in my bedroom till I was like 37, and then I'd finally pick it up, type thing.
I kind of plinked and plunked around on it for a couple of years, not really knowing what was happening. Maybe I remember playing like that old EMF song, "You're Unbelievable," just playing the one string.
It wasn't "Smoke on the Water."
I mean, that's basically the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I went to one guitar lesson, and the guitar teacher was like, "Nobody shows up knowing how to play any song, let alone like a Smoke on the Water," or I think I was trying to play through like Metallica's One at this one lesson, and then the following weekend I broke my leg skiing. Obviously, it was the winter time. I couldn't crutch around and carry that guitar case in the wintertime, so I just spent a lot of time on the sofa trying to figure things out. I was still kind of into sports. The following fall, I was playing football, broke my leg on the field, and then had another kind of broken leg thing through the winter time. That took a long time to heal.
So what you're saying is you were kind of a klutz.
A klutz on skis. It doesn't sound like a klutz on
music, not sports.
You're a musician, not a sportsman.
So were your parents into music, or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, definitely. Ran, music roots ran in the blood, ran in the family. I remember driving around in Mom's car listening to Prince and like early Mariah Carey and The System, Earth, Wind and Fire, Bonnie Raitt.
So you're saying your parents are our age, me and Brett's age?
Perhaps. That's some old school stuff.
They were young parents for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then that was really when I took off, was that second winter not doing much because I'm hobbled by a cast. So and then it was the following year that I started meeting some people, and first connected with this guy Chris out in Norwood, Young America, and he and I would hang out every weekend and start to like put some riff ideas together, and then we met a drummer, and then we met a guitar player, and then we eventually met the keyboard player, and then by late '97 we were a full 5-piece band.
Oh, cool. So you were in high school pretty much, right?
Yep.
So were you part of the rocker groups?
Absolutely.
The rocker clip?
Yeah.
Click? I remember those guys. I hung out with those guys
Mm-hmm. Yep, a lot of black T-shirts.
Yeah.
Starting to dye the hair black, paint fingernails black.
The army green jackets.
Yeah, kind of the doom and gloom look.
Yeah.
With the emo look, I
Yep,
think they called it, or goth.
Well, I was a
So-
breakdancer, so I was the.
Patrick, you probably remember all that goth stuff going on since you were at the time
Yeah.
that we met, 93X DJ.
Yeah. So I used to do the Loud and Local show on 93X, which was, I'd play half hour or sometimes it was an hour long of local artists. And I remember Tony was really good at marketing his band and himself, and he would call and go, "Hey, it's Tony from Lord. You gonna play my record this week?" Being like, "Lord of All Desires. Let me see. I've got 30 minutes, and you have an 8-minute dark goth metal song that would
Opus.
scare the shit out of a Satanist, and you want me to air that? Okay, cool." So I think it took a little twisting, but I finally got him on the air, and the music is great. It's just the genre. I think for me and at the time was like, whoa, dude.
93X
but
at that
yeah,
time was the hardest,
it
right?
was good.
Pretty
Yeah.
much the hardest.
Well, it was
Station.
pretty much the only hard rock going on. You had 92 that was playing moldy oldies still, up until what, a month ago? But 93X was the only
Harder.
decent rock station that and the people were cool. And I remember meeting Patrick at TGI Fridays. He came in and he's like, "I'm Patrick," and I'm like, "Who?" "Patrick." "All right, Patrick." Had no idea what he did, and we just hit it off and we started talking, and like, "Oh, you're a DJ for 93X," and after that we just kind of built this friendship. And Patrick gave me tickets to a lot of the shows, like the big fests out in Wisconsin. He brought me to Metallica, and I met Metallica backstage.
Wow.
And that was fantastic. And the funny story from that, Patrick remembers, is I was at TGI Fridays downtown bartending, and Godsmack comes in. They're just wandering
yes, I
around, and
remember that.
it's like time to close down. And I go and tell my boss, I'm like, "Godsmack is here." He's like, "Oh my God, are you Godsmack? Oh my God. Oh yeah, just let him drink, let him hang out, let him drink." So we hung out and drank, and the band members were like, "Well, hey, thanks for allowing us to stay and partying a little bit. It's nice to have a quiet gathering, just us. What are you doing tomorrow?" I'm like, "I'm not sure why." He's like, "Well, we can get you backstage and give you some tickets to the show. And we're opening for Metallica." And I've fallen into that trap more than once. "Yeah, we'll have backstage passes for you." We show up and they're like, "Who are you?" "No, you're not on the list." I'm like, "Yeah, no, thanks. I'm good. But thank you. I'm good." So then I'm driving home from work the next day, and Patrick is like, "Hey, I got backstage passes and stuff for Metallica." And I'm like, "Fuck, I'll be there. Heck yeah, I'm there." So we're in the line, and it's funny because then the Godsmack guys come walking by, and Sully, the singer, walks by, and he kind of looks at me, stops, looks again, and I just kind of shrugged and went, "Oopsies." He just had that look, shakes his head, and keeps walking. I'm like, "Oh man, I'm embarrassed." But yeah, but all those shows, and I remember meeting you through Patrick and all those guys, and Brian, or I'm sorry, and if you remember Brian Minnie, and
Brian Otteson.
Yep, from Black Flood Diesel, then American Head Charged, and those guys. So a lot of really cool people came out of that genre. The kind of early mid 80s metal was fantastic. That Minneapolis sound, American Head Charge, Stacia, Black Flood Diesel, just to name a few. I mean, it was awesome. That was probably the best time for heavy rock ever. It was a sound that nobody else was doing, and it was only coming in from bands that were in Minneapolis, and those were bands that I had actually friendships with, and they really kind of influenced me in the music that I was playing and doing that stuff. And I ended up doing a cover band with Wayne Kyle from American Head Charge and Brandon Day from Blood of a Dying Covenant, Eric Day's brother, and some other guys. And, if it weren't that we were getting older and that genre was moving on, I think we could have really done something with it. But it was a great time. So,
So where were some of the places that you played then? Was Mirage still open at that time? Was that a
No, Mirage closed April of '98. I want to say I went Halloween of '97 was the last Mirage event that I went to. But I had seen, I think, a Cannibal show, Cannibal Corpse, Death Metal Bill, and then a different show. Deicide was there. I think even a Morbid Angel show was there too. But yeah, the last Mirage show that I went to was Halloween of '97, and then just a few months later they were closed. So
sad day?
Yeah, certainly. I never got the chance to play it, but I've got plenty of pals in the city that did play it in 94, 95, 96 through 97. And then so for us, for me, my first show was at Ryan's, St. Paul.
Okay.
Yep. And then I think our third show was opening up for 6 Feet Under and Hatebreed at the 7th Street entry.
Okay.
So
it's a small venue there, but I hear a lot of people love playing there.
Yep. Yeah, I think back then the capacity was 300. So
and then the
quaint.
The downtown scene was actually kind of thriving too. So
yeah.
The reason why we're talking about Fridays a little bit is we would go to Fridays to pregame for the pregame of the concert.
Yeah.
So we had Urban Wildlife had shows, the Quest had shows, and God, there might have been like the Entry, and there was just there was a few Fine Line. So the thing to do was to go to the downtown Fridays to kind of like eat and then just kind of get a couple of beers in you, and then you'd go to the shows and throw down. So that was kind of like
Fridays was great too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a place to go before the music before you went out. But yeah,
that's that alleyway.
Wildlife was
that has
great
that alleyway, right? The Fridays had that alleyway, right?
No, Fridays didn't have the alleyway. But what Fridays was weird because Fridays had the Fridays bar, the normal Fridays bar, and then they had that back bar, and we had music back there. So we had people coming and playing and stuff like that. So people would gravitate towards that back bar. So the people who are coming downtown just to have a couple of drinks, something to eat, and then off they go, was at the front bar, and then we'd all kind of...
Wait, it's been so long. So there's the Loon, right? And you go down. Is that where it's at? That
no, it's in the City Center building.
Yeah,
the big, tall, ugly
City
gray
Center.
one.
Oh, okay.
It was there, and it was there for
Between
10 years, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, 7 and then 8.
I just read that they defaulted on a $130 billion loan. I don't know what's going on. 130 million. I'm sorry.
All right,
not billion, but
TGI
million.
Fridays. I would
They're
not
going to knock that building down.
Oh, the City Center. Yeah, I am not. I would. That does
Nobody
not surprise
liked that
me.
building.
In fact, TGI Fridays was looking at that, and they're like, "Yeah, we're not going to continue with the lease that they wanted because they were doing. I think the lease was like $20,000 a month, $25,000 a month, and they hiked it from $25,000 a month to $50,000 a month. So it was significantly higher, and they're like, "Well, that's about we're doing about $80,000 a month. That's not enough for us to continue doing this."
Yeah.
And then if you remember the Italian place that was over across the street, which is now Kieran's, they jacked up, Bellinote. They jacked their rate was $50,000 a month. They jacked it up to $100,000. They went out of business anyway. And then Kieran's went in, and Kieran's wheeled and dealed because that space was open for so long. They were begging somebody to come in, and they actively looked for Kieran's and said, "We will give you a deal if you fill the space.
Whatever you want.
Whatever you need, whatever you want." And they said, their original leasing arrangement, and we want to be able to renew this at our, on us, not on you, on us. We'll let you know if we're going to renew or not. And they go, "Perfect. Here, sign on the dotted line." So they got a incredible deal to be down there, and it's fantastic.
So that's you guys' old little gathering place.
Yeah.
So you're 20 years old at this point because you had a fake ID, right? And then you went. Okay.
Well, then,
so what band were you in at that time? Lord, was that Lord then?
Yeah, Lord was probably just winding down. 01, and then 02 is when Stasia started up.
Okay.
And let me tell you, Stasia, and I'm not just saying this because Tony's here, but I think Stasia was the best Minneapolis metal band at the time.
This
American
is
Head
01,
Charge,
right? 01.
Yeah, American Head Charge got the contract with Rick Rubin with American Records. But Stasia, I think you guys just had it. I mean, the sound, the look, everything was just spot on. And American Head Charge, they were so messed up at the time. Sometimes they were awesome, and sometimes they were meh. They were. You didn't know what you were going to get with American Head Charge, but you know exactly what you're going to get with Stasia.
Depended on how pure the heroin was that week.
So are you with any of the same guys? Are you with all the same guys that you were playing with, or?
I don't have any guys right now. I'm guyless.
You're guyless.
No, I'm bandless right now.
Okay.
So.
He's his own one-man band.
One-man show?
You're a one-man band show?
Yep, that's what I moved on to after leaving the rock country group in 2019, just to focus on
And Tony, how many songs are in your repertoire? Like if I said, "Hey, can you play this?" I mean, is it 200 or more, or like?
It's about 300.
Wow. How do you keep 300 songs available with music and lyrics all together? I guess not drinking helps.
I mean, that's a piece of it, certainly. No, the music stays up here. It's the lyrics that I'll struggle to remember on certain songs.
But you got quite the setup though, because up at Steel and Hops, which is near where I live, Tony plays every now and then. But I mean, your setup was really cool because you had all sorts of stuff. People could text in. I mean,
I think I saw you there for some reason.
How do you do that? I mean, how do you use the technology to kind of put yourself out there and make it happen?
Yeah, I was just going to reference that technology to answer Patrick's question with using that QR code system. So I'll put out acrylic table tents, around the bar or tables or whatnot, and people have the option if they want to interact using their phones. I feel like through COVID, we all kind of got used to the QR code thing. For the most part, there's still a demographic that's like, I don't want to touch that shit. But so yeah, you can scan the QR code. It will bring up a landing page. You can pull up the song list, and then you can look down, which is about 300 large now, and pick out whatever you want to listen to. So people will ask, what kind of music are we going to hear tonight? And the short answer is whatever you want.
That's nice. You play on the patio, right? Because I remember seeing somebody on the patio that had that.
They have regular music there.
Okay.
So I gotta ask, is Freebird on the list?
Will not.
Or you just
have
rely
Freebird
on
as
some
an option.
jackass in the back to go,
I just think,
because that's always fun.
I don't think anyone really wants all 9 minutes of Freebird is the thing. And
Oh my God.
As often as it's requested, I don't think any of them are
So then they go to American Pie.
What about Stairway?
No, they go to Stairway to Heaven. Yeah.
The Stairway I would be much more prone to want to give to somebody because there are different movements in the song, and
No, I heard there's a thing that if you start playing guitar and you go to Guitar Center, you can't play Stairway to Heaven.
No Stairway. They have signs.
No, you're forbade to play that song because everybody plays it when they.
that might be a wives' tale.
That might be a wives' tale.
Yeah,
Okay.
perhaps.
I don't know.
I think it's from Austin Powers.
No,
Mike Myers.
Oh, you're thinking
Whatever
of
The Basement Show with the. What is it?
But
Brain
if I
farting.
can-
The SNL skit.
Oh yeah, what was that? They
They
had
made a movie
two
out of it.
movies out of it. Wayne's World.
Wayne's World,
Yes.
of course.
Yeah, Wayne's
Thank
World.
you.
Duh.
Thank you, Gene.
No, I was going to circle us back to 2002. I have a very vivid memory of Patrick coming to. It was basically Stasia's like coming out party. We had a studio party in our warehouse building in Northeast on 420, and we just hit 420. So this was literally 23 years ago.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Has it been that long?
Since 420 of 02.
Wow.
In this particular 420, our building decided to have, it was like a multi-tenant kind of co-op community gathering. And I know we had hundreds of people down there, but in our respective room, we did, I think, a 5-song set, because that's all we had in those early days was just those 5 songs. And I remember Patrick moshing with my cousin and other people, friends and family, and it just was a magnificent sight that it's probably midnight or 12:30, and
Yeah.
I got Patrick from 93X moshing in my studio, having a grand time with everybody else.
Yep.
Drinks were
I
flowing.
don't leave
no
anything
doubt.
on the table, man. I did not leave anything on the table back in my days.
Oh, yeah, no, you
It was
didn't.
so fun.
Actually, you did not. I mean, I remember many a days, Patrick had nothing else to do. Come on down, and he was the worst influence on me. Getting off the bar, nah, I'm going home. Oh, I'll go out for a drink. And then 4:00 in the morning, I'm coming in, and I'm in dire trouble. But Patrick always smoothed it out the night.
We always have those friends.
The strip clubs were open past the bars, right? Or wait, I shouldn't say that because Gene's in their own.
We are
bump
not
stick.
talking about that.
You got lucky because she just left.
She knows. She knows. But so, kind of the metal days that you were going through, Tony, you went through different bands, and Stasia was kind of last metal band. And I remember when things started kind of changing and people were going different ways. You stuck with the music business, but then I started that open mic night that you helped with
Yeah.
immensely. I mean, it could never have been as successful it was without you over at O'Donovan's. So we had an Irish guy that was doing a lot of music, started this open mic night, and then after about a month, he just kind of went, "Yeah, I don't want to do it anymore." And everybody's like, "What?" We'd like to continue doing this. So I just kind of went, "I'll do it." So I talked to Tony and said, "Well, I'm going to need some help on this." And Tony was down every time that we did it. I think we were doing it on Monday nights.
Mm-hmm.
And
Remember
Tony would
Mondays.
show up and do it. And Tony brought so many people and so many good musicians to come in and play. And the kind of the people that I knew I was trying to get in, and we got a lot of people in, and we really made it successful. My point being is that, you really did a good kind of that acoustic style. Is that kind of drove you into kind of doing your own stuff? Or was this just kind of the next step in the things that you're doing?
It probably, I don't know that I knew it at the time, but because if I could attach a date to it, I want to say that was like 2008.
Yeah. I think it was
Ish.
probably 7 or 8, probably 8. Yeah.
And then by 2010, I was just starting to do solo shows around
Mhm.
town. It didn't become like a job until 2011, I want to say, is when I jumped kind of headfirst into making music.
Well, and that's
Time
like,
thing.
and that's the one thing I remember. Remy Maxwell, one of Patrick's co-workers and friends, came in one night. There was some show going on, and came in, and we played "Man in the Box."
Mhm.
And Remy heard that acoustic version of "Man in the Box." It was you, me, and Chris playing the song, and he sat there, and his mouth was wide open. When we were done, he's like, "I've never heard that done like that before." And he talked about it a few more times when we talked, and said it was, wish we would have recorded it,
Mm.
because it was probably the best acoustic rendition he's ever heard. And he's, then people started kind of doing that afterwards. But man, some of the stuff that I remember us doing was like spot on, like better than good. I mean, it was great stuff, and
That's a fun memory.
right. And it was a great memory. It's like, not that I was any good. It was that, I was keeping up with you, but you really kind of paved the way for kind of that acoustic set that, kind of doing those things without having a backing band. And I remember there's only a few people that were doing that at the time. Kelly Peterson, if you remember him. There's a couple other guys, but that was, they were doing bar stuff, and it wasn't a big thing at the time, but the acoustic stuff started really kind of picking up after that. But then you got this great opportunity to do this kind of country kind of band thing. How did you get involved with hockey?
Just trying to I had reached out to him, like Patrick talked about me being annoying, in his back pocket all the time. Will you play my record? Will you play my record? I started hitting up.
You and Ian Severson had that shit nailed down, man. But I love you guys. It's all good.
But I started hitting up Hockey about that's Chris Hockey about playing a solo album that I had just come out with in 2012, and then I had a I don't want to say a close encounter with one of the singing shows, but there was a locally promoted version of the Voice that was doing a lot of promo
I remember
in
that.
town, and so I ended up being like one of the top 5 in town, and so it turned into this like local contest. We sang on air. What was that at the state fair? I can't even remember. It's been so many years now, but Hockey had me on air to talk about the experience getting flown out to LA and auditioning, jumping the line and the whole thing. But
Man, I thought in my mind, there's absolutely no way with your voice and your talent that they're not taking you. And then we were like, yeah, it didn't happen. I was like, oh, it's like almost like my dreams were crushed.
yeah,
and there it is, the politics of music, right?
Politics and music. So, but what was the experience like to be out in LA and doing this stuff? I mean, because on The Voice and you see the stuff, you see the front of the scenes, you never know the back of the scenes. What was it like to go through that experience, go to LA and do this? I mean, it's got to be something different.
Yeah, I mean, it's anxiety inducing, it's nerve-wracking. You're seeing so many other people that are around your same age that have these hopes and think that they're good enough to make it. And what you learn after going through that is they kind of bunch you into groups of 5 or 8 or whatever it is. You're basically in a classroom at whatever facility that they're doing the casting in, and they point at you and they go, all right, your turn. And you sing what you think is your best song for as long as they will
allow
it.
Yep.
But usually it's like 15, 20 seconds. They're like, okay, thank you. Your turn. And then
so they're running through people
so
just
fast.
Like
Yep.
So
and if they like you, they're going to let you
want to hear more. Yep.
Longer, or they'll say, all right, I like that. Let me hear something else. And then in your mind, you have to be ready for what that next piece is. And sometimes that can be tough in that environment to get your brain to go, okay, what was my backup song? What was my next song that I was going to sing? And shift gears. And you're in this whole time you're auditioning for a show. And it's really not as much about your voice as it is about, can you look good on camera? And in the end, either wasn't enough talent, or my story wasn't compelling enough, or a combination of all the things.
So you're cattle, pretty much, and they're just running you through
a
thing to see if you have it.
Mhm.
That little, because there's always those. I see that in all of these things, that there's always something that they're looking for. And did you ever know what it was, or did they just say nope? See ya.
They never know. They say, well, we'll let you know within the next day or two, and I never got anything back. So after the third day.
So what year was this again?
This was 20. I could check my emails. 2011, I want to say.
So this isn't the start of when was American Idol and all those things started?
Well, I mean, that was way earlier than that. But
so
Voice
this
came
sounds like
out
the prelim of that.
Well, The Voice came out, and
that's
correct
what it
me
was.
if I'm wrong. The Voice came out as one of those competing shows for American Idol.
Yep.
And then you had the other stuff, How to Make a Rock Star, or whatever that show was. They had like In Excess. And
Rockstar In Excess.
Rockstar In Excess.
Supernova.
Yep.
Was the other one.
Was the other one. And one of our cohorts that used to run in the same group was out of that. So it was really cool to see somebody coming out of that genre, out of our Minneapolis music scene, to get on that show, and then to see you go to The Voice. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, I thought, this puts Minneapolis on the map, but then things changed. It was almost like how the big 80s, the big hair 80s was the rock gods at the time. That was cool, and the spandex and the big hair and stuff. And then Nirvana killed all that, and then it became that grungy thing, and then it became this Minneapolis sound, and it became something else, and now it's
new metal was popular in there.
Right. Yeah. So, in all these different genres, I mean, you're on top of the world for a month and then you're a nobody. And it was just it was cool to see at the time some of these individuals from Minneapolis bands coming onto these shows and doing it. Tony was one of them. I mean, it was just very cool to have somebody representing from Minneapolis showing the world the talent that's here.
So I mean, I watched The Voice. I've watched American Idol. I don't see many rock bands or that genre, that harder genre. You notice that as well, or is it?
Oh yeah, yep. I stopped watching it because just from
representing.
Well, not only that. I just think that hearing the backstories from Jordas and from Kat Perkins, who placed fourth, I think, on whatever season that was of The Voice.
Right. Yep.
It just isn't. It isn't as crowd driven, or they say it's the crowd voting, the audience voting, but it's not at all that. It's about,
so that's when you get into the politics of things.
100%.
I see. Yep.
And when you know that, it really takes the competing aspect away.
Yeah, sure.
It really is about.
I'm sure it takes the wind out of your sails too. It's like,
Yeah, I think the prize is a record deal with a record label, and there's no way a record label is going to let people phone in who they think is best. They're going to definitely have a say in it. So,
well, like Patrick, bringing that to you being 93X doing Loud and Local, you had a lot of these bands and a lot of these people that trying to get to these, and that did get to these upper echelons of music happen. I mean, and you were definitely a part of that. With Loud and Local, how did you actually kind of promote these bands?
Well, I started out just grabbing a city pages, and wherever bands were playing in the next week or two, I just developed a concert calendar. And then around that, I started playing bands. So I would say, it's Sunday night. Here's Stasia. By the way, they're playing this Thursday at 400 Club. Boom. So like it literally kind of dictated my playlist. Just, I was like an audio billboard for bands. And I think it helped drive not only bar business, but helped the bands out a little bit, gave me some content that, because when I went into it, I didn't really know a lot of the bands, but of course I got out and saw them and developed relationships and things like that. But that's usually what I did. And then after some experience, I just had my thumb on the pulse, and I'd show up at shows, and I knew who was good and who wasn't. And but everyone seemed to be together as a family, as more so a competition, which I guess in the 80s, 90s, it was, fuck you, our band's done. And then all their people would leave. And then the 40 people would enter for their band. And then that band would play, they would leave. But when I was part of the scene, and Tony can attest, is like everyone had each other's back, and they all traded shows and opening acts and things like that. So
yeah,
no, this is a time where Spotify didn't come out yet and all that stuff. Did that change some things too?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I was just going to add on to what Patrick just said with saying that I remember you being out there doing a lot of on location shows, recording your shows, Patrick, and then you would also MC or host a lot of these events at venues or shows, or like a Battle of the Bands type of thing. I remember you were part of that for quite a few years. And
yeah,
it was
cool.
I loved seeing you out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, and some of it was, the bar saw a draw of 500 people, and they wanted to enhance the experience or get a DJ. Because if you do it, so some of them were paid, and some of them were just me doing it as a favor for the bands. But if the Quest wanted to do Quest for Mayhem, and it was on Friday nights, and I was on the air at the time, so Pablo ended up doing that gig. But what happens is you give Pablo $250. When he's on the air, he's going to talk about his upcoming gig a lot, and then you get the $250, and you're there every Friday, and it's great. But sometimes you just do it as a favor. But yeah, there's opportunities there to when the bands in the bars were thriving. It was awesome.
Well, and one of the things that I noticed is with all these big bands that were going out there, we all knew, and everything kind of dissipated. There was only kind of a few people that were still doing this, Jordis, for example, and then she kind of petered off, and now you find kind of your niche doing the stuff that you're doing now. But then when you got in the hockey band, then what happened from going from Chris Hockey Band into doing your own thing? Because I mean, I knew Chris Hockey from the radio,
Right.
and all of a sudden it's like he's got a band. What? I had no idea, because that's not the genre of music I listen to. But as soon as you hit it, then I started looking at the pages and looking at the videos and stuff like that. I'm like, God, this is a great band. With you getting into this band, I mean, how did things change? Kind of that trajectory, how did the motion of where you were going for this kind of metal into different kind of avenues of music?
Yeah, and I intended to finish telling the story of how I even got into that. So he, through the going on air with him, he invited me on and promoting, talking about the voice experience, and then promoting the solo album. He had texted me out of the blue one day. I remember I was eating at Devani's in Golden Valley, and I get a text, and he's like, "Do you know anybody that plays guitar and can sing well?" And I just came right back at it with, "It's me. Like, I'm open and looking for a gig." So that was really all that it was. Is he had just sent a text looking for somebody to do that, and I'm like, I'm actually available right now. So that's how it started. So I got that in 2013, and then 2014 was I think the first show was at Bogart's Apple Valley, and then for the next 5 years, just we didn't do much in like the off season, the late fall, winter, early spring, but late spring through summer into early fall, that was the busy season, and we would knock out 80, 90, 100 shows every year during that time.
Wow.
Playing 3 or 4 days a week sometimes.
And then you'd open up for all these different headlining kind of acts.
Yeah. Yep. I think my favorite event was that TC Summer Jam at Canterbury in 2019. It was one of the hottest weekends weather-wise, and it was outdoors, of course. I think the Thursday night was like REO, and was it Styx or someone else in that realm, and then the next night was the Aerosmith night. So somebody opened, we played second, then it was Buck Cherry, and then it was Aerosmith.
God,
And then,
wow.
And then just being side stage, getting a chance to watch Aerosmith, A, for the first time, but B, just like so in like you're in the energy they're playing in. It was just so much fun. I've got pictures of Steven Tyler topless, 5 feet from me. It was pretty amazing. Just as a spectacle,
How many people filled that stadium, roughly?
The outdoor kind of open wasn't even quite an amphitheater yet. They are building and opening one soon down in that same space, but at the time they just kind of opened up the racetrack, and that was just kind of it. Like people just sat, stood in the middle of the racetrack. But gosh, I wish I knew what numbers were, but I want to say it was something like somewhere between 5,000 to 7,000.
So
maybe it was more than that.
Basically a sea of people.
Yeah.
See, and that's awesome. I see like these videos. It's like, I played in a bar, and you'd have a packed bar of like 150, 200 people, and you were a rock star. But
which is a great sight.
It's great. But to be in that position where you look out and you see the sea of people must have been something awesome. And man, hats off to you, man, to get to that point to actually do it. That's awesome.
Oni, did Stasia ever win Battle of the Bands and play at X Fest? I can't remember if you guys were one of those.
We did win the Battle of the Bands, sponsored by 93X in 2004, or was it late 03 going into 04? But that year, the prize was to go fly to Hollywood and open up for some big rock band. And at the time we won, we didn't know who it was going to be, and it was like another 4 or 5 months before we ended up finding out like who we were going to go open for. So then April of 2004 was when we found out that it was going to be for playing with King's X.
Oh, wow.
So we got 2 nights with King's X, once in Santa Ana, Anaheim area, and then basically the next night in Hollywood at the Key Club.
Wow.
But yeah, so that's
awesome.
That was my trigger, was a sea of people, because 93 X Fest here in Somerset, and that was pretty cool. I mean, seeing local band, and that was like kind of like Proud Papa moment for me, like seeing bands, even though they're opening and it's 1:30 in the afternoon, but there's still people,
or 11 a.m.
there.
sometimes.
Yeah. And so yeah, that was kind of cool. And just from my experience, getting on a stage with literally 40 to 60,000 people. I think the year we had Ozfest and X-Fest in the same location, I think there was a good 80,000 there, and that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. That's a good feeling. But yeah, I've just wondered if you had that experience. But I know a lot of bands that did get to do that because of the Loud and Local battle of the bands.
Yeah, I remember years prior watching bands like With, Jack Gilbert's band, play on the side stage. I can't remember his band at the time, but Eric,
Ginger Jake.
No, your DJ cohort. He had a band that also played that side stage at X Fest. Head Charge played main stage. I want to say Black Flood got main stage once out there.
Head Charge did.
Yeah, it just was.
Flip was always one of those two that they'd actually play later in the day.
I remember seeing them later in the day.
It's funny because Randy Ingebrigtsen, I met back in college when he was playing in the band Riff Raff.
Yeah. St. Cloud area.
So, I knew Randy Ingebrigtsen from Flip, and then Jack Gilbert. I met him at St. Cloud State too. He was a St. Cloud State alum.
Wow.
And I met him and a few other guys that played like more of the Metallica, Flotsam and Jetsam kind of, metal kind of stuff. And it was, crazy fun. And, Jack Gilbert is definitely just an amazing guitar player. Just so versatile. The guy's awesome. And I remember watching him play, and I'm like, God, I wish one day I could play like that, and I'm one of those guys that I will fake it till I make it kind of people. I knew I would never make it as, a musician that's, up in the hierarchy, but I would do it because I love doing it, and I was good enough to do it. I was good enough to, actually play and have some fun with it. And that was more important to me than being a rock star. But, I always had that feeling for you, on The Voice and Stasia and doing that stuff. Like, man, if anybody could do it, you could do it. But, watching the world change so much in so little time. I mean, you went from metal to crazy metal to doing acoustic sets at a local bar, to doing big shows with a country band, to doing all these shows that you're doing where you have a repertoire of 300 different songs. I mean, that's amazing. I don't even remember people's names, and you got 300 songs that you're doing. And I remember Jean, she's like, all right, hey, what song do you want Tony to do? I'm like, what? And she texted it in, and boom, you're doing it. Like 3 songs later, you're doing it, and I'm like, wow, this is cool.
Okay, so the 300 songs.
Was it? I like big butts and I cannot lie. Is that the song?
Yes, it was Sir Mix-a-Lot.
I'm getting the head nod. Yes.
So the 300 songs that you play, how many of those are originals? How many have you written?
I've got, what do I have on there?
Oh my God,
5 or 6 of my own songs like listed on that song list.
And how many songs have you written so far that you have?
Boy,
yeah. Are you getting 17-cent checks from ASCAP or anything?
If I still had buddies in the radio world spinning those songs, maybe.
Now, didn't you put out something relatively new here? kind of an album of your own stuff. Now, I know that you play guitar, you play bass, you sing, and you play drums. I mean, you're like, you do it all. Kind of like a David Grohl, but Minneapolis version of that. That you're putting this stuff out. Tell us about how you put together these songs and these albums that you've done on your own. That you've literally done everything on your own.
Sure. Yeah. The we'll call it an album. It's an EP. It's 4 songs that I did. The first solo release was 2012. It was those 4 songs. Just teamed up with a producer in the studio, and Colt was his name. He's still around. It is still his name. He and I teamed up on these songs, and I brought drums in and recorded drums. I borrowed your acoustic guitar.
Yep.
The Tacoma.
Actually, I was going to ask you, if we bring the Tacoma downstairs, will you do a song?
I would think about it.
All right.
But yeah, and
So you just layer everything, kind of like Prince did back in the day. You just kind of play one part of it, and
yeah, that's how you have to do it that way, just as one human. I suppose you could teach other people to play the other parts, to just kind of have them demoed, but it's like, why bug anyone?
I always think of the guy at that O'Donovan's. Was it O'Donovan's or
yeah?
O'Gara's that had all the. You just playing.
Oh well, we did that. Well, we were somewhat professional at O'Donovan's. And Tony and I would put the sound together and make sure that everyone that went up there, had a good sound and a good feeling about it. So it worked really well, and that really kind of put things in action of how I do production. So when it came to putting together the podcast here. Then I started doing all that production work that I learned along the way.
That's why you knew how to do all this stuff.
But that's a lot because of Tony, though, because we kind of did this stuff together and we worked on the soundboard and we made sure we dial everybody in. Yeah,
that soundboard.
God, it was horrible.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because all this stuff.
But it worked. I mean, we figured that thing out, and it took us a couple Mondays to figure it out. But
I was like, Brett's a cop. A bartender, a cop, and a martial artist. How is he putting all this stuff together? Why does he know all this stuff?
I wear some different hats.
Sounds like you're setting up a joke.
Yeah, a bartender, a cop, and a martial artist walk in the bar, and then the same guy. Yeah.
Bartender looks at him and says, "Get the fuck out."
So he throws himself out. But the production side of things. I mean, when you're going into a local studio and you're looking at the production side, you're not only the musician, but you're also part of the production of what you do. And I remember the frustrating part of like putting this together, the frustrating part of putting, that stuff together.
That was last week.
Yeah. It's tough. It's frustrating. How do you deal with that stuff? And then put out the EPs and the CDs that you do that are, stellar. I mean, I've listened to them and I've known a lot of musicians along the way. I've seen a lot of musicians along the way, and your stuff is spot on. How do you produce an epic kind of EP locally like that?
And you're doing it all solo, correct?
Yeah,
with a producer / engineer. One guy that's kind of helping produce, but is engineering everything, right? Turning all the buttons and doing the edits on the fly, and editing things after the fact, and then doing the mix once everything's down.
Now, are these people that you've met along the way and said, hey, this is the guy that I want engineering my stuff? Or do you go into a studio and go, who do you got?
Yeah, you normally are going with the person that you have met and have gotten to know most of the time, I would say. Having worked with Colt in the past, it was an easy sell knowing that, it was going to be him and I. I trust him implicitly with the technical side of things, but also from a, sonic side of things.
That stuff's going to come out right.
Mm-hmm. And you can kind of get lost within yourself playing something one way and going, I don't know if I like it this way or the other way, and having that producer kind of outside voice to be like, it should be the other way.
Mm-hmm.
That way sounds better.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So you lean on each other, and I think just approaching it with confidence and knowing your songs as well as you do. They talk about the phase of pre-production, which is really just demoing all of the tracks and kind of having things arranged the way that you think they're going to turn out in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
That way, when you're doing them for really real,
Mm-hmm.
then it goes a lot faster because you kind of know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But then sometimes when you're in that studio environment, creativity can take over and things take a left turn.
Mm.
Then you're like, I don't know what we're doing, but we're going to try it. And we're going to see if this sticks on the wall. And you just go with it sometimes.
Because there's a lot of stuff going on there. I'm just amazed by what everybody does in the background. Now, okay, so do you play primarily every weekend or a couple
Yes.
times every weekend? So you're out every weekend and you play on one day, or is it 2 days a week? Do you play Friday, Saturday, or
Usually both. Yeah.
Usually both. Okay, so that's your show time. That's like that's like the game. How often are you practicing and learning new stuff? Or I mean, what is your I mean, you've been playing music for a long time, so you're not like me on the on the my guitar in my bed trying to do scales and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know all that stuff. So, are you doing anything new to learn different things, or
Yeah.
how does that look?
Yeah. The answer is yes. I am trying to add a new song to my list once a week.
Okay.
So in, 6 months from now or a year from now, I can tell you now I have a song list of 324 songs, right?
Okay.
But
So you're writing? Are you continually writing, or how does that? I mean, because there's a lot going on here with music.
there is a lot going on.
Okay, so I hear people. It's like, are you always thinking of stuff to write about, or do you have your own past stories type thing, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think I don't even know where to start with talking about this because, the weekend shows aren't necessarily like that. That's a different compartment than writing.
Sure.
songs,
Yeah.
Right. And so I will admit that I don't make enough time to do as much writing these days because I am so focused on the performances every week.
Mm-hmm.
And not just my own shows, but I have jumped on with a house band of sorts. So I'm not calling it my band. So I'm still without a band right now.
Mhm.
But once a week on Wednesdays, generally, I've teamed up with these guys called the Ziggy's All Stars.
Oh, I've heard of them.
And we are doing an open jam, like band karaoke sort of
Mhm.
a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just for singers, it's for all players. So if you're a guitar player and you wanted to come out to a jam and play on a couple of rock songs or country songs or whatever it is, you can sign up and play rhythm guitar on Smells Like Teen Spirit. But then, later on in the night on set 2, you can sign up to play lead guitar on, what's a good lead guitar song? Some Van Halen
Yep.
tune, right? Jump.
Right.
maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
But if you wanted to try or play bass one night, you could sign up as a bassist
Right.
and jump on and
Well, that's cool.
sign up for these songs. So that generally happens on Wednesdays. So I am learning a lot of new stuff every week, every Wednesday. There's a lot of the regular jammers that come out that are putting new songs into the sets that we don't necessarily know, but we learn them for that night so that we can back them on that song. So there is a lot of learning going on, especially lately.
So do you go through life going, you're doing your thing, and all of a sudden something happens to you, and do you go, oh shit, I should write a song about that, or like,
Yes. Yes, that can happen.
Yeah.
okay,
Sure.
okay,
Yep.
and you just sit there and start writing. Do you just stop and start going off, or is it a continual process? Because I was thinking like Gordon Lightfoot on Edmund Fitzgerald, he just did it,
Yeah.
or John Denver on Calypso, he just like within a few minutes, it's like there's a song.
That it can hit you like a ton of bricks.
Interesting.
And you need to get it out of you.
Oh, okay.
Other times you can revisit song ideas or song notes on a sheet, and try to flesh out some of the ideas that you have already worked on. Sometimes, like I had put out a teaser for a song that I have as a part of a new album that I have done. I just haven't released it yet. So solo album number 2 is, I don't even want to say it's in the works. It's done. I just need to figure out how to release it. We can talk about that in a minute. Because I have no idea what I'm doing in this streaming release music world. But that particular song started from one of my favorite bands, the main songwriter passing away in 2010, and I knew that the effect that their music had on me, I needed to get out in song form some way, but it took a long time for it to finally come out.
Can I ask who that was?
The frontman for Typo Negative. Peter Steele.
Yes.
I've just loved that band since the early 90s, and
So how many different songs do you have in the works that you're thinking about? I always think about, people are working on so many different things, right? And go, okay, I can work on that song for a little bit, or do you have multiple songs that you're working on or in your head?
You could argue there are dozens of songs that have been started that are unfinished, and it's whether or not you actually revisit them to try to work them to completion. Some are abandoned. The old saying, good art isn't completed, it's only abandoned.
Yeah.
Like there's never any finishing to it. You're just, okay, good enough, and it's done. But I would say there's probably dozens of songs that have been started.
Well, and I can totally agree with that, because you've come here off camera. Here is a complete setup that I have that we've done recording. And I've got all these different recordings from when we did O'Donovan's, when you came over here and sang, that we've done, and I've saved all. We'll talk about this later, but I've got all this stuff that's saved, and I have this old Digio 2, which is both. It's FireWire, so it's the older, not the USB 3, but it's the FireWire, but it's analog, and I wanted to have something that I could use analog. So you see that Mesa Boogie over there with the Gens Men system.
Yep.
Right next to it, you see the Epiphone pacemaker. And then in the corner that you don't see, I have the Spark 2, which is a total interface that can go right into my Digio 2. And so I use that older model, and then I have a computer that does Windows 7, because I have to have Windows 7,
Windows 7.
For that Digio 2.
Wow.
But I wanted something that can have that warmth, that when I put a mic to the Gens Benz, it takes that warmth, and it's not just something that's solid state. It's a tube amp that's kicking out some really warmth, some weird different vibe to it. I wanted to be able to do both. And then I have Studio 4 on my computer that I can do more solid state stuff. But I saved all that stuff from all of those days from O'Donovan's that are there, that will always be there, that can come back to the forefront. And I would always think about stuff and go, God, wow, this is kind of cool riff. So then I would pull it up, I'd throw in a little bit of that riff, and then I put riff and put the date in, and come back to it. And I've pieced songs together that are like, oh, what, the riff that I did would sound good with this riff and this. And then I would piece those together, and I'm like, okay, then I would make a new riff, and I'd pull those together. Do you kind of do that kind of stuff when you write music, where you're actually piecing things together that you've done?
Yes. Yep.
So it's not an anomaly,
No, yeah, it's, I do have some, voice notes, song notes on here on the laptop, but a lot of it stays up here, and something will remind me of that piece, and I'll say, I should revisit that piece that I haven't done enough with yet, and it's still not really attached to a firm song idea yet.
See, that's talent. For me, if I don't put it down on something, I forget it, and I'm like, oh, what was that? I totally forget it. So that's why I set up that kind of the studio down here. And I remember Gene upstairs, like, God, who was that? He had a great voice. It's Tony. And then we'd go and see you over at the local bar down the street doing your stuff.
Local bar down the street. Have you played Route 47? Did you do that, or where do you play around here?
Not in a long time. I wish, because it's right by the house. But you need a band to play there.
Yeah.
They don't let solo.
Well, they got the open mic on, but I'm sure that's but that's
Yeah, I think to feature
you have to
there,
have a full band.
you gotta have a full band.
Sure.
And they want you playing 80s, 90s rock.
Yeah.
They have pretty much the same format of bands playing any given weekend. They
So
might
where are
have-
you playing? So I know you played Steel and Hop. Where around locally are you hitting right now?
Let me tell you, as I look at my
So
calendar
my friend
here.
just bought a bar, just to let you know, not a restaurant, rather bar restaurant. And
Yeah.
he wants to have live music in. So
Right on.
Casa Rio, right next to Serums.
Oh, cool.
So he's gonna start having some music in. So
Oh, I think I've heard of that recently. Well, we can talk about that.
yeah.
So yeah, like next week, for example, Friday I go up to Crosby, Minnesota,
Okay.
and then Saturday I come back and do a place in Somerset, Wisconsin called Tea Buckets. The week after that, I'm doing a Thursday in Lakeville.
Okay.
And then 2 days later, Saturday is in, where is that? Oh, Mankato. So I'll actually be doing.
So you're dipping around. What is your website?
It's imtw.com. IAMTW.
IAMTW.com.
Yep, that's where I keep all my my show dates and video and original music
Okay.
and all that stuff.
Cool.
It's not hawktua.com because that would be catchy.
I thought
You'd get
you
a
bought-
lot of.
I thought you bought that domain.
It's for sale.
Since she wasn't using it anymore.
Come
Pattua.com.
back.
Pat Tua. So
Yeah, we gotta
Patrick,
get Hawktua girl on here.
question for you, Patrick. Out in Cali,
Yeah.
how does the music scene kind of work out there, as opposed to here?
That's a good question.
Are you? I mean, I know that you're still kind of involved in music and
Yeah.
the actors out there in film and stuff like that. You're still really connected out there, and I know it's a little bit different here. But is there anything that kind of parallels?
In Sacramento, I mean, it's a really shitty local scene because it's like Cake and Deftones and Tesla, all these just awful bands. Oleander. This is sarcasm, by the way. I hope you're picking up on what
Yeah,
I'm
I'm like, those are great bands. What
Papa
are you
Roach.
talking about?
I mean, fucking
What?
A.
Garbage.
No, I've actually
I
rubbed
love
elbows
garbage.
with like dude from like Tesla and Papa Roach dudes all the time. Like it's just crazy here. But no, it's a little different. It's so we had the fortune of catching the new metal shtick at the right time, and as the new metal stuff went, so did our local scene back in the day. And then that kind of just dried up, and rock in general is kind of dead. I think on the active rock side, everything that's could have been done has been done. But what I'm seeing now, what I like is like stuff like Sleep Token, where it gets really like dark and melodic and heavy, and it's like 4 songs into one. It's like Tool on steroids. It's so amazing.
I feel that.
And I see Tony nodding his head. It's like I'm back into listening to metal again because of Sleep Token and some of those other
So there's
bands.
new genres kind of evolving out of this. Is that what you're saying? Or
Yeah, but I think like take KQ for example. You just can't play Bob Seger anymore. It's who cares, right? So out here, it tends to be a little bit more folky. There's a good DJ scene here, but it's really alternative and not really my cup of tea. But it would be there's a few venues, and actually they're opening a 2,000 to 3,000 seat club called Channel 24 out here, which we don't have. We have small bars and the Golden One Center, which is where the Kings play. Like, so there's no in between medium. And a lot of folks will also skip Sacramento and because San Francisco's an hour and a half away. They're going to get more people. They're going to make more money. So they just kind of skip over Sacramento, which kind of sucks. But as far as like a local scene, there's my old station, Alt 94.7 here, does a partnership with the downtown Sacramento folks because they want to have, people coming down to downtown, and it's called Concerts in the Park. So there's a park right downtown in the center of the city, and they have 4 or 5 bands on every Friday night from May through July. So, and again, we've had like Papa Roach come and do an acoustic set there, but that's usually where I would discover Sacramento and local music, would be at the Concerts at the Park. But I mean, there's a couple of other local venues, like Tony's played Ace of Spades, which is kind of like the equivalent to a smaller First Avenue, but it's got that vibe, But
Cool club.
there's a local scene here. It's just, I don't know, it just seems a little quieter, or it's out of my interest, I guess.
So here we have our big venues are Excel and US Bank and those
Target
ones,
Center.
right? In Target Center, right? And then you got the smaller venues, which is like the Armory and the Myth, right? Is that would be the next step down?
Yeah, those
You-
mid-sized
those
venues,
mid-size runs.
Yeah.
And then you have the smaller venues, getting
and
smaller.
Fine
We
Line,
just went
or
to the
Green Room, or whatever it's called.
yeah,
now.
we just went to the Varsity.
Mhm.
So, what are you? Do you have all those equivalents there?
Not really. There's a really fun bar downtown, and it is a bar. But it's pretty like jazz focused, which is awesome because you get some really good bands coming through. And I'm trying to think of the name of it right now, but every time I go down there, I black out, so I can't remember.
Because Minneapolis has a lot of
That's
little
it.
places.
It's called the
to play.
Blackout.
The Blackout.
Yeah.
That would be a great bar to own. The Blackout. Kind of
Yeah.
like Stand Up Franks, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
Minneapolis. Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. But no, there's just a few. The Boardwalk is another one where I saw Head Charge when they came through back in like 2011 and 2013. But that's way out in Orangevale, which is about a 40-minute drive from where I live. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's sporadic around here. It's not like Minneapolis at all. I think Minneapolis has a leg up on the local music scene and the bars and things like that, places to play and opportunities.
Did you ever go to the Goldfield? Goldfield.
The Goldfield
in
Sacramento?
Roseville?
Oh, Roseville. Yeah, Roseville's nice. Yeah.
So that buddy
I'm-
that used to play in Lord with me 25 years ago, he works at Goldfield in Roseville as a bartender.
I think you told me that when you were out here like 10 years ago. Remember we went out for a drink and
Yeah.
yeah, I think I think you told me that.
So he was
But
at
I-
Ace of Spades up until like 5-ish years ago, and now he's
Yeah.
at Goldfield.
There's a fun little bar on the American River called Swabbies, but they do like a lot of the 80s cover bands, kind of, similar to what you guys got there in
Route
Minnesota.
47,
with,
yep.
Yeah. So yeah, they do like, it'll be a Pink Floyd cover band, or there's Skid Roses was one of their
Skid
bands
Row.
that
Oh my God.
Skid Roses, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but this broke up like a year ago. I used to actually work with one of the guys at the radio station here, but he was the bass player, and his name was, I think it was Sicky Nicks, is what he went by. So, yeah, it was just one of those over the top, like it's like Hairball, kind of like just let's just fucking go all
Steel
out and have fun
Panther-esque.
with it.
I like Zed Leplin. Don't they play at? They play at Route.
Right, Route
Yeah.
47.
Yeah.
I remember when I was playing cover bands out in a rock band, and we were playing in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, and there was a band, it was band or venue where you had the bands upstairs and the band downstairs, and we played downstairs. And I remember the band upstairs, they were a Chicago band called Valentino. And this is during the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And the guitar player's name, and I kid you not, was Racy Carr. And and we were downstairs.
creative.
We were kind of dubbed as the Guns N' Roses of the Midwest. And, our vocalist was just, oh my God, he went up one side and down the other of Racy Carr and some of the other stupid names of this band. And they were like, total posers. And we were like drunk idiots on stage, kicking bottles. But we
Yeah.
had more people downstairs than they had upstairs, and they were kind of the headliner. And then they came downstairs to see what was going on. And I swear to God, Racy Carr cried. It was bad. But I mean, it was like some of the stupid stuff that, kind of came out of the 80s. The one thing is like the songwriting was horrible. But the actual musicianship, the guitar players, the bass, the drums, all that stuff was really intricate and detailed and really solid. But oh my God, the look and the actual lyrics were like the worst things that you can ever think of.
Yeah, but it was so great though.
But was. But that was a hairball. We're not talking like bands like Queensryche and Metallica. Bands like that actually wrote stuff that had meaning. And
the 90s came, so yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But those bands, the bands that actually were meaningful in their writing skills and talented with their musicianship, actually went places. Metallica. You look at Def Leppard.
The 80s spawned the 90s, right?
Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue and bands like that. Queensryche for
but we lived through them. That was the great,
and that
part
was
of it.
great. I mean, I think one of the things is when I listened to Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche that we just did, but I remember listening to that album for the first time, and Gene bought this CD and I listened to it and I was like mesmerized by it. I was like on my edge of my seat to listen to what was going on. And I could see in my mind the movie that was happening with this song in this album. And it was incredible. So then when, Jeff Tate came to town to do this show, it was like, when you said, hey, you want to go see Jeff Tate? This is 3 months before it happened. And we're like,
no, it seemed like longer than that.
It was probably 4 months. It was like, get the tickets. Yep. So he got the tickets and it was not a disappointment. It was one of the best shows I think I've ever seen. And that man can still sing.
Oh, he's 66.
66. And it's the same, like, Judas Priest, for example, they just played at the Armory. And one of my good friends who will be on the show at a later time, was sending videos of this. And he's like, oh my God. And he came from the same genre, the 80s metal, and big fan of like Van Halen and Judas Priest and Motley Crue and these stuff. And so he went to the show by himself and he was sending videos and he's like, oh my God, this band is still as good as it ever was. Mm-hmm. And watching Jeffrey Tate with the band that he put together, the vocals that he did, he's not in his 20s anymore and you can kind of tell, but for the most part, I mean, it was amazing. I mean, it catapulted me back into that time in the late 80s and early 90s. And I felt like I was in my 20s again. It was
well, see, great. I mean, so Ann and I saw Jeff Tate at, what was that? It wasn't the Myth. What was diagonal from the Loon?
You're talking First Ave or
no, diagonal from the Loon on Fifth.
Oh, right, around the corner. That's changed so many names, but we knew it as the Quest.
Yeah, we saw him there. I took Roger to that place right next to the Loon. There's
you got to remember, people don't know who Radford and Ann are.
Yeah,
your friends.
Yeah, my friends. Yeah, so I took some friends. I took a friend to that right next to the Loon, and I didn't even know that place existed. It was like a little downstairs. No one was there. We were at the Loon having dinner, and Jeff Tate walked in, and I got a cool picture with him, and then saw him there, and there was hardly anybody on the floor. I mean, I stood right in front of him the whole time, listening to him sing.
If you're talking about the place that was right across the street from the Quest, it was on the same side of the street as the Loon.
Loon, yes.
Yeah, okay. That's changed so many.
So that was the downstairs one.
Mill City is what.
Yeah, Mill City. Yeah. So I mean, nobody was there. It was like amazing, and then we just saw him, and that was packed. That was fun.
A sold out.
Sold out,
show,
and I saw Queensryche when they were here, and that wasn't sold out. They were giving tickets away to that. Well,
but the thing is, like,
night.
Yeah, you remember that night?
Yeah, Queensryche isn't Queensryche without Jeffrey Tate.
But that lead singer is really good, but he's not Jeff Tate.
No, he's not. And you only have like one of the guitar players left of Queensryche. I mean, it's not even the whole band anymore, but they're playing that stuff. But when you have Jeffrey Tate doing Operation Mindcrime, and it's the last time he's doing it.
You have 2 original members.
Oh, there's 2?
Yep.
Okay. Guitar player, drummer, correct?
Bassist.
Or bassist, okay.
Yep.
But it's not really the same
No,
band
it's
anymore.
not.
The drummer
I mean-
went nuts.
You didn't. You did. You
Seven
didn't
Pulled
years
up
ago.
Pink Floyd.
So
Yeah.
Had I wish I'd known, I would have. I mean, that you missed that. You missed a great.
Well, but even like when
great
Chris
concert.
DeGarmo was with the band, and he did a lot of the songwriting. He did most of the songwriting. And he's like the only one left that's actually still married, still living out in Seattle. And now he's working on a band that his daughter is in. It's amazing. And then he went on tour with the guitar player from Alice in Chains, and did a lot of stuff for him when he wasn't able to do some certain guitar stuff that he wanted. He had Chris DeGarmo come in and actually do it for him. So Chris still, from what I've looked at, is still in the music scene, and he still does a lot of stuff for different people. But he was like the main, driving force in how that band, ascended
early on, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But yeah, he left 99.
Yeah.
It's been a really
It's
long time.
been a long time.
So who's that band that opened up? Because it was kind of cool because the saxophonist from the opening band for Jeff Tate played with Jeff Tate
As the female
as
singer
a female singer.
and keyboard player. So it was kind of amazing.
That was kind of neat. Do you remember the name of that band,
That's
Gene?
fun.
Or
it was mixed something. They were all from Ireland.
yeah, they're all from Ireland.
Ireland. So, and they had that very northern Dublin, Ireland accent. So,
Interesting.
and I know that accent.
That's the only fucking accent I can do.
Yeah. You see, the
Fuck's
funny
sake.
thing is that people don't understand is Patrick when I left TGI Fridays and I went to O'Donovan's Irish Pub, owned by an Irishman. His brother, who's an Irishman, worked there. God rest his soul, Oisin Cowley. But they're all Northern Ireland that were there. And Patrick came in and goes, I'll give you an Irish accent. And they're like, nah, whatever. And he talked in this Northern Irish accent. And Caroline looked at him and said, okay, that was good.
Well, I dated a girl from Northern Ireland for I hung out with a girl like that for like 3 months, and you pick up on some things. You know what I'm saying? And all you have to really do is not pronounce the THs. Like tree is the number 3, right? And you just end every sentence like it's a question, and then you just have it down. For fuck's sake. And you got to say fucking cunt a lot. You just have to.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, that's like that's the only fucking accent I
But
can do.
that's
other than
funny because
Minnesotan
that's a
and drum.
Northern Ireland accent all the way. It's like when they say tree, you don't know if you're talking about foliage or the number.
Yeah. What's the crack, you fucking idiot? What have you been up to? Let's see. Yeah, what's the crack? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. I dated this girl in Wisconsin when I had my first radio job in 1993. And yeah, she was a riot. She looked like Nicole Kidman too, with an Irish accent. Oh God, delicious.
What happened? What did you do, Patrick?
I didn't. She was on like an exchange thing. She had to go back to Ireland, so it was like okay.
Well, you should have went with her. Patrick would be on the radio station for the Belfast boys,
Yeah.
underground.
Yeah. No, yeah.
So do you have everything dialed in now? Are you happy with what you got? Are you trying to do more with different music, or I mean, the music journey is a funny thing to me. I see as we get older, our music interest changes, and what we want to talk about obviously changes. Because I think that's kind of an extension of what you write about, right?
Sure. I still love, obviously I grew up loving metal, but I still love metal and heavy rock, melodic rock, and I still have a passion for that. So you could argue that maybe there's not a lot of lucrative
Endeavors,
opportunities
yep.
in that genre, but you can't ignore what's in you, right?
Yeah.
What has kind of motivated you into the music that you're doing today? How does your
How does country get in there? Yeah.
You have this metamorphosis that goes from this grungy, heavy, gothy.
I want to know how
metal,
that country got in there.
And what are you doing now?
Well, just to succinctly answer your question, I got a text. It was an opportunity, and I wanted to try something new. So
because country's a funny thing, right? I think that there's people that either like it or they don't, and there's something about it that kind of hits you at a certain age. I think with country, and that there's Western and there's different types of country, obviously, and there's that twang. I mean, you look at somebody like Beyonce doing a country album or country songs or whatever it was that she did.
Didn't she win a Grammy for best country album? Are you kidding me?
I know.
There's two types of music: country and Western.
and I think that the genre kind of died for a little bit of the country, but now it's starting to kind of pick up a little again. Do you see that?
When I left in 2019, I was countryed out, to be honest with you, and I tried to not pay attention to it anymore. And I think, and I've heard this a lot just throughout, but like modern country music that's coming out now, a lot of it doesn't seem authentic. A lot of it seems contrived, and I mean, it's just pop music with a banjo on it, or a mandolin on it for the most part. I mean, yes, that's oversimplifying it, but having been in it and paid attention to it for the 5 years that I was, it just.
So what makes what makes your music that you're doing country? Does that make sense? I mean, so if you don't have a banjo or you don't have, right? Because I've been listening, I love Chris Stapleton. There's a couple new guys that are out that are just doing acoustic, right?
Yep.
But and there's a certain feel to it. They're usually love songs, or my heart's broken kind of song type thing. It's of that. Is that
there are the stereotypes, of course.
Sure.
But I think you would have to ask someone that is better qualified to answer.
But what would make you the stuff that you do country? What signifies that?
Like I said, the opportunity came up for me. I just kind of accepted and jumped into a moving entity. Right?
Okay, sure.
It's already kind of established. Hockey himself would go to Nashville and work with songwriters in Nashville and kind of co-write, or even be pitched songs that would appeal to his senses, and he would say, "Yeah, I'm going to do that song." So I think the Nashville country machine just, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of songs out there that are getting pitched every day, and artists have that opportunity to hear them, internalize them, and decide if that's something that speaks to them, and then they make it their own in the studio with a producer.
Okay.
But
and for me as a long life rocker, I over the last 2 years finally got burnt out on all of the songs because I've heard them all, I've played them all, so I actually listen to country now, and the reason is, and I think maybe Tony can talk about this, it's a storytelling genre which I like because it's fresh to me. I'm not burnt out on it, and the sound itself has changed, like Shabuzi, everybody's in the bar getting tipsy. It's like there's an older version of that song, I think, or everybody in the club getting fucked up, But for me, I was gonna say, or maybe for Tony, is when he's out doing gigs, they want to request. Fast Car is popular now all of a sudden because Luke Combs did it. And yeah, like Luke Combs kind of just roped me in because he is authentic and he is genuine, and he's got a great knack for writing songs. And to this day, like Luke Combs and Florida Georgia Line are like kind of my bands, and I'm still learning about the genre, but that's what I like about listening to country now is I'm surprised every time I hear a song and I actually kind of genuinely like it.
Well, that's one of the things. Like Luke Combs, when he came and played like a bunch of shows at U.S. Bank, he had a guitar that was purple and had Vikings colors.
Oh.
Yeah. So he was actually, and he played that song and recorded it. And that was one of the YouTube videos that went viral, was him playing Fast Cars with a purple guitar at US Bank Stadium in the Viking Stadium. I mean, that was, you can't make that stuff up. So
yeah, the Tool drummer, he'll wear a basketball jersey or some sort of every band, every city he's in. So if Tool's playing in Boston, he's wearing a Celtics jersey, and there's all that stuff going on. But
Yeah, I've seen
I
that.
like artists that are keen to that,
where they're at and play 'em.
Yeah.
So you started getting into country too. What kind of country? Who's your favorite country?
Who, me?
Your favorite country. And you as
like
well.
I said,
Yep.
like Luke Combs is pretty much
he
my
was just
guy.
talking
I mean,
about them.
but there's a big festival here coming up in May. It's called Country in the Park, and it's at the Sacramento State Soccer Stadium, or the Sacramento Professional Soccer Team Stadium. But you just mentioned Chris Stapleton. I've heard of him. Some other songs. I'm more of a song guy than an artist guy, but I would say like Luke Combs is kind of like where I went, oh, this is really cool. And like also, the Cruise song by, Baby, you're a song, you make me want to roll my windows down and cruise. I mean, it's just fun, and then, it's so, I don't know. I like the genre. I don't have established favorites yet, because I just kind of listen to the country station here, and it's really good. So,
even Johnny Cash before he died was doing, Gene brought up the point that he did
Johnny.
Hurt by 9 Inch Nails and did this acoustic. It is like, oh my God, it is just like a ghost. I mean, it's just, I can't even describe the sound that
Trent Reznor, when asked about that song, said, "What do you think of it?" And he said, well, "Johnny Cash did it. It's his song now." Like,
but Johnny
9 Inch Nails song any long.
He did a couple of songs that were like these rock songs that he did his own version of it, and it was better. Yeah, I mean,
also produced by Rick Rubin, because he was like, "You're on your way out, Johnny. Let's leave him with a fucking like jaw drop." And so let's do Soundgarden and let's do 9 Inch Nails, and it's a great album.
It was great, fantastic, and I see some of that stuff. Even like we were talking about Georgia Florida Line, I remember them doing this country rap, and they brought in Nelly to do a remake of that song Cruise. So Nelly was doing his rap version of, like the club mix. So you see this, kind of new mix of country and kind of this hip hop and country and top 40 kind of stuff coming in. And even country's changed. It's different from the old school country that we remember, It's
Hank Williams and Patsy
Hank
Cline.
Williams Jr. the Third became a metal guy. If you remember, playing at First Avenue, was playing these rock shows, and it was like, bruh, it's not country.
He's a badass.
It wasn't even country.
It was an attitude, is what that was.
Yeah, and it was incredible. And you're like, holy crap, these guys actually do have some talent that you're listening to. So, I mean, and Tony, and you with you playing with Chris Hockey, I mean, I was blown away by the kind of talent that band had, literally. You were part of that band, and I had no idea that Chris Hockey, the guy that I listened to on the radio about sports stuff, had a band until you joined it. And I listened to the band. I'm like, oh my God, what is he doing in radio? I mean,
he's a hell of a front man.
Hey, easy.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
No, you were
people. What do you mean, you people?
You were
anybody can get into radio, right, Patrick?
You know what? Yeah, that's how I got in.
Yeah, but I mean, Patrick,
dummy with some luck.
You were like the guy. Everybody wanted to know the guy. You were like that mid-shift guy, and everybody listened to it, and and everybody knew Remy, and Remy was cool, but you were kind of the guy. And you came out and you did stuff. You went to the bars and stuff, and you talked to people, and you did that stuff, and you promoted yourself. So you did really well in terms of that stuff. And Remy was kind of like, he just kind of hide. But that was kind of his deal. He just kind of wanted to, do his own thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, just
you know, and there's nothing
Remy had
wrong
some
with that.
swagger. Remy had
Oh, my
swagger
God.
to him. So did
He's-
Weasel and
yeah.
all those other. I always just wanted to just kind of be as real as possible. I wanted to be approachable.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like I'm better than you because I'm on the radio. Like that wasn't my thing. And that's where I kind of like helped out local bands. Is
Yeah,
by doing
and
Loud
you
and Local was
connected.
kind of
Everybody
like,
connected with you, and they loved you, and it was great. So, and I
oh,
remember when
thanks.
you left 93X. I mean, people were literally heartbroken. I remember people like, life sucks. You know,
You're such a liar, but I appreciate it.
No, I'm serious. I'm absolutely serious. I was one of those guys that was like listening to 93X, going, yeah,
It's not the same.
yeah.
Patrick's not on
Hey,
there.
You know
Eh.
what? You know what's ironic is if I had stayed and not moved to California, I probably would have been fired in the next year or two anyway. So, like, they were just laying off people.
They
Like,
cleaned house big time.
yeah. And now now there's like 4 people in the building that I know, and
They're
that's
still there.
3 radio stations, right? Like 105, 92, and 93. It's like,
So now
it's all different.
Now, Tony, getting back to like back in the day when Patrick was doing Loud and Local, he was getting people on. How do you get your music out now?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd
you
like
got to
to know that.
stream it, but how do you get your?
It's got to be
stuff out?
easier, right? Like, it's probably easier than ever.
It's easy to push it out. The hard part is getting people to go
Notice it,
listen
yeah.
to it.
Mhm.
So how
Mhm.
do you do that? I'm still trying to learn what I can and absorb what I can and take what I see on social media from other people as they do, release marketing campaigns, if you will, and just try to, drip and drop before the release and then post release, content.
Yeah.
And just
And
keep
I
it
think,
fresh in people's
uh,
minds.
And yeah, I was going to bring this up too earlier when we were talking about country. The band New Medicine was a hard rock band. They got signed to a label, Atlantic Records, because I knew Gary Gorman from Atlantic Records, and when he was in Sacramento, he'd come and visit us and try to play. If you're in the behind the scenes part of the music business, I was the assistant program director of 94.7 here in town, and record labels, they come in and they go, "Hey, we got this hot new single. Why don't you listen to this and I'll take you out to lunch?" And you're like, "Okay, cool. Oh, that's a good song, yeah." And then you go out to lunch, you know. But New Medicine they had a single called "Laid," and they did pretty well. They got on a couple of festivals and tours and big tours and things like that. But then Jake, Jake Shearer. He's a great. I think he just writes songs without breaking a sweat. Songs just pour out of that guy. And he actually went and changed his name to Jake Rose when New Medicine broke up, because I think a couple members want to do some other things. But he changed his name to Jake Rose, moved to Nashville, and just started being a country dude for like 3 years. It was like, oh, and the stuff he did in country was great. He never got really picked up or successful. But when I listened to his songs, it was radio quality. It was tour quality. It was on stage quality. But now he's back with New Medicine again. So I don't know. There doesn't have to be a division of genres anymore, I don't think. I think it's all just
It's what people like and attach to. But the thing that I see is that people are doing TikTok shorts, YouTube shorts, or things like that. Are you doing all of those things? Are you out there in that realm where you have more exposure? Or?
I'm trying to do more video content just in general.
Okay.
I just met up with somebody the other week who's talking about how prevalent TikTok is still, even in this very moment.
Yep.
Today, even after the government shut down for 24 hours or whatever. But that video is the driver, and I just think you need to
Those platforms in itself, whatever it might be, I do see a lot of my feed always comes up, people singing and stuff. There's this one guy, he's one of my favorites. He's a Filipino guy that does goes on Omegle and meets people. Can I sing a song for you? And then they say he's a great singer and great guitar, but he's by himself, and they're like, they freak out. And he's got a lot of followers now. So is that something that you might endeavor into, or?
We'll
TikTok,
see. We'll see about that. I mean, I have not wanted to jump into the TikTok realm
because we're old.
Well, sure. I mean, to some extent, but it's at a certain point, it's like, how many platforms do I need to keep up with
Sure.
as the artist?
Uh-huh.
And then, sure, I could hire some help, but then how much?
Yeah.
How much?
Because you always see everybody's, whatever their thing is, they always have, they got the Facebook, they got the logo, the YouTube logo, the Twitter logo, well, all of them, at the bottom that they can click on. So it's always hard when especially when you're advertising like you want to do that. It's almost better to get that barcode that you can just take a picture of, right?
Yeah, I think for what I'm doing every week on the weekends, that's helpful for the performance.
Mm-hmm.
But for long-term branding and brand stickiness, we'll call it.
Okay.
I think that's where the video is
Sure.
is going to help a lot.
Okay.
In terms of marketing.
So from my perspective, okay, last night I wanted to do a little research on you, and I just looked up Tony Williams. I think it was a guy from the Platters or some guy from a long time ago comes up because he's a musician as well, right?
Famous drummer.
Yep, famous drummer. So if I want to go, you need to listen to this guy, Tony Williams. What would be the best way for them to go right to where you're at or a song that you sing? Does that make sense?
No, that's a great question because, like, when you look,
Because I want to promote. I'd like to promote you if I can, and
when you look up something on Wikipedia, it always has that disambiguation in parentheses, like,
Yep.
how do I tell the difference between these two things that have the same?
Because Tony Williams is not a common name at all.
Yeah, but
I'm trying to-
that's the kind of thing when I mean TW as you go by, it's you. There's like probably 5 pages of you, but you go Tony Williams and there's probably 5 pages
of the dead guy.
Yeah.
of you.
Yeah.
So
The guy who died in '99 or whatever.
So is there something that you can go to that, I'd like to say you need to listen to this guy so they can, first of all, that they can have it in their memory and go, oh, I want to look this guy up. And it not be a fiasco because a lot of people's attention spans will go away from that. Like I did last night. It's like, I'm trying to find you just generically.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there something?
It's I think it's onlyfans.com/nakedtony.
Naked Tony. I mean, that's
Well,
probably,
and I have to give it up to Patrick for being a subscriber for 15 years since he moved away. So
I like your tats, man. And the things you do with your feet are amazing.
so if we
I like
were
your
to,
pants around your feet.
if we were to bring the Tacoma downstairs, would you play that? Maybe give
I
us
love
about
playing the Tacoma.
30 seconds of Tony Williams.
Brett, bust it out, man.
All right.
I like big butts and I cannot lie. Itty bitty thing while saying what wait.
All right. Gene, can you get that guitar?
So let me ask you
Tony's
this.
guitar. I
please
told
hit
you
the guitar?
once. I told you once that I put together my my papers for when I die, my living will.
Uh-huh.
And you
Oh,
know
boy.
who I willed my Tacoma to? Take a guess. Take one guess.
Tim
That's
Wolf.
pretty nice.
I don't
I
plan
know the
on
answer.
dying anytime soon, but if I were, that Tacoma is going to TW Tony Williams. Because
Aw.
That's me knocking on wood. That
Yeah.
you stick around for a while.
and I remember it the Tacoma. The one thing about the Tacoma that was American made, now it's made in Japan, but it was bought up by Fender. But before then, I got this Tacoma, and there was something going on with the finish where it was pulling away from the binding heads. Nothing to do with the sound of the guitar. It just made it look kind of weird on. And I remember looking at it, and I'm playing it, and Tony's got a gig, and I'm playing it, and I look, and I see this. All of a sudden, I thought the neck was pulling away from the guitar, and I'm like, oh my God. So I brought the guitar to Al Shapiro to actually do work on the guitar because I thought it was broken. And I'm like, Tony can't have the guitar. The neck's messed up. And Shapiro's like, yeah, no, it's not. It's just the finish of the guitar. It'll play just fine. And I was like, ugh. Tony needs the guitar, and I denied him because I thought the neck was breaking, and it did not. So right now, Tony's getting his guitar ready. You're gonna have to pull the actual Yep. And you need a pick.
Nope, I got one.
A guitarist always has a pick in their pocket.
It'd be nice
Always.
to do. Okay, so
I got my pick.
how is this going to pick up here? Because and this is new, so we haven't done this before. So this is going to be an experiment on a guitar
Well,
with
we're
the
going to have
sound.
to put that the mic kind of in between the two, and
See if it picks up.
hopefully we pick something up here. It's picking it up. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a Tony Williams playing for us, so you can see and hear and go to his website and then go to his shows.
So let's real quick. What is your website again, Tony? TC.
IAMTW.com.
IMTW.com.
Yes. And Patrick can hear that.
How's that sound, Patrick? Can you hear it pretty good?
Not really.
Not really. Can you hear it
He
at all?
hasn't given a good strum yet, so I hear him just picking a little bit. Yeah, I can't hear that at all, dude.
No.
Nope. There's some tones and things that these mics don't like, but I'm not sure if he's got to
Well,
be directly into the mic or what. but
OBS
if you
is
guys
picking
can hear
it up,
it,
so
go ahead.
okay.
Nice. So, Tony, let me ask you something. When you write a song,
Yes, sir.
does that come first, or do the words come first?
It's 95% of the time the music is first.
First,
For
okay.
me.
Okay.
All artists are different.
Okay.
And there's a lot of songwriters that have their words ready to go,
Uh-huh.
and then they put music to it later.
Okay.
But I need the music.
The sound, because the sound will bring out
Yeah.
the feel of the story that you want to tell. I'm taking it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm brand new at this game. I've been playing for probably 25 to 30 years, but if you actually took the time that I played and broke it all down, it'd probably be like an hour and a half type thing.
Total.
So yeah. So
Yeah.
okay. So and I know that there's progressions in it, and you learn songs just like we were talking about earlier about you learn a song, you learn a part of it, and you go on. The progression. So the progression of writing your own song.
Mm-hmm.
Do you okay? Like you said, you do that first. You get the whole thing done, and then go. Oh, these words would go to it, or
I don't know that the music is 100% complete before words are coming out.
okay.
It has happened that way sometimes. Like, I just love the flow of these pieces of the parts together.
Okay.
But
See, 'cause that sound, okay, so what you just played had a feel to it.
mm-hmm.
Okay. It's like
Yeah.
right, and it had a certain it brought me to a certain place. Is that how you bring the words in? It's like does that sound bring you to a certain place and go, this is how I feel? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And actually what I did is I played a couple of the riffs from that song, talking about the front man of that band
Mhm.
passing away in
Sure.
2010.
It does sound like that melancholy, somebody you lost somebody type.
Sure. Yeah, and it's not supposed to be like so morose and oh my God, like death, and it's not necessarily
No,
about
that was more like to me that was more like a memory.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the lyrics are talking about
Okay.
of that song. But me bringing that song up before is the music came, I think it was 3 years after he passed, but the lyrics didn't come out of me for another 8-9 years.
But that sound did.
Do you have
Do you
have the vocals to go with that? Are you able to sing that?
Yes, I would have been singing if I knew that it would have been heard better.
Oh yeah, it's being heard.
Okay,
it is.
I heard Patrick say he couldn't.
Well,
hear.
Patrick's in Sacramento.
I'm in a different planet.
Behind
so
the bar here,
our hookup,
looking at the recording audio, it's being picked up. So if you wanted to sing, we'll be able to hear it.
Okay, so and then this could lead actually further discussions, because if you have more musicians on, how could we make it so that if he were to, or somebody or a guest were to bring up a guitar, that it actually sounds
it's picking it up.
True to
so where you had the mic and everything else, it was picking it up pretty well. So we can
want to play with that, huh?
Try to do it like this acoustic and vocal type of deal, and we'll see how it goes.
Drowning in stagnant time, silence fading into thoughts of you, without a cry for help, an ending written too soon. As the world came down, suddenly the pain was gone. No more fear or insecurity. No, no. A living flame, held close in our heart, in a grace, awful to meet again. As the world came down, suddenly the pain was gone. No more fear or insecurity. No, can we sing a song you'd sang long before? Can we be freed from the hard drown? In the cost, should we run? As the world came down, suddenly the pain was gone. No more fear or insecurity. No, as the world came down, suddenly the pain was gone. No more fear or insecurity. Oh, and then you were gone.
Wow, that was really good.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Thank you, Patrick.
I should have asked you if I could videotape that. I'm sorry. I apologize. If you want me to erase it, I will. Is that the song? Is that because
That's the one.
Here's what I heard. Great voice, great song. I heard the power in your voice from your rock and your hard rock days, or that type of. I was waiting for a bust out. Is that, you know what I'm talking about? Does that make sense? It seemed like there was a point where you could have really.
Yeah, I could have.
Yeah. I don't know if you did that during, or if you were just kind of keeping it subdued, or if
It
that's
was more subdued, I think, for this environment.
Okay. That was a good song. That was really good. Yeah.
Other than Typo Negative, who would you want to play with?
Yeah.
Like, be on the bill with?
That you haven't yet. Like, yeah, you were gonna play a song with a band. What band would it be? And or what song would it be? But if it's Typo Negative, that's okay too.
It would be the band Chuck Norris, and yes, I would have Tony headlining everything, and I would be waiting back there, waving, going. So
Only if we can use the soundboard from O'Donovan's.
yes, no.
Jesus.
Oh my God!
Because it never worked.
That was a crap show. Yeah, it never worked.
No, great question. I mean, Metallica comes to mind. That would be incredible. Pantera, I love, and I love that they're out doing stuff again.
They're doing the Leonard Skinner thing. I get it.
Yeah, some people have a problem with it, but I don't.
Skinner?
Good for them.
You're
I saw
kidding,
Tesla
right?
at the Myth.
Leonard
they were
Skinner
good.
is still on tour despite having no living band member alive on the stage. It baffles me, man. Just like, what the fuck?
Well, it's like 38 Special. I mean, they have one band member singing with, Leonard Skinner, and that band is like defunct.
A lot of those bands are kind of running like that these days, right?
Yeah.
I think Motley Crue needs to hang it up. I'm just saying that. And I was the biggest Motley Crue fan you could have ever met in 1988.
Until they got John 5 playing with them.
God, that
He's
band's
a monster
gotta go.
player.
Oh,
Oh,
Vince Neil.
I see Roger Waters here. I want Pink Floyd to get back together. I mean, I really like.
Well, yeah, they're gonna walk out with their walkers, kind of like.
No,
the
well,
Rolling
I saw.
Stones.
You know what?
Everybody.
That's a great question.
Our,
What do you know
our,
about
our
Sean
mutual our mutual friend brought me to Judas Priest, and he almost did come on a rock walker, but man, he could still belt it out.
Well, but there's some singers that actually can still sing. Jeffrey Tate being one.
Yep.
And when you bring out Judas Priest is only missing one member, one guitar player. It was a KK Downing. It's no longer
Not sure. Yeah.
and one of them. But so you have some, bands that are still doing it. Motley Crue is still kind of doing it, even though Vince Neil, it's just like, oh my God,
It's a disgrace.
just holy smokes, the guy
Wow.
porked out to like 280, 300 pounds. I mean, he was.
Well, he doesn't sing anymore. He just holds the mic out to the crowd like this, or he's just like, hey, man.
It's like Skid Row. No, they got a new singer, and they got a new singer, and another new singer, and another new singer, and they don't even have a purpose. But when you have,
I saw Air Supply.
when you have the original singer from Skid Row, and he goes out, and he's the size of a house too. It's like, oh my God, you guys quit eating and drinking.
You guys probably have this too. In California, we've got the Hard Rock Casino, which is, I think it's an Indian casino, but it's a Hard Rock branded place. But yeah, those casinos, they draw some pretty good journey. with the new
Mystic
singer
Lake.
and-
Yeah, Mystic Lake. They have a great.
But the
they have a-
casinos, they put on good shows.
They do.
It's fun.
and their
It's-
environment, the environment that they have for them is great. The sound stages or whatever they do. It's not like it's not like the Myth or whatever where you go in and there's just
Casinos,
sticky floors and
casinos got it figured out.
Yeah, well, I remember watching Tony play at First Avenue main stage. It was incredible. I mean, that's awesome. And I remember seeing bands though in 7th Street Entry, and it was a lot more fun at 7th Street because it was just like more, wasn't as big, and it was like,
But
it was
you know
better.
what you just said though? Just it just mind fucks me all the time. Like I'm just a kid from St. Louis Park, and I
Mhm.
got to step on the stage at First Avenue multiple times, more than 10 times, I'm sure. And it's like that's a fucking dream for a lot of fucking people.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
just
Like
being
a
there. So
dream,
yeah,
dream.
yep,
Like,
yep.
and I've
Just
done
to
it,
be
and
there,
it's
yep.
just like, holy shit, how fucking cool is that? But yeah, that keeps me up at night sometimes. Like I'm just some schmuck from St. Louis Park, man.
And I'm standing on
I
the
get
First
to
Avenue
go
stage.
on. Prince stood right here while I'm introducing Black Flood Diesel or American Head Charge. It's pretty surreal.
So what's next for you, Tony? What do you got going on now?
I'm gonna get that album out.
Okay.
It's 8 songs.
OnlyFans.
Yep.
OnlyFans tag. You got to get that.
So what's the name of the album or CD or
Yeah, the
music
album
you're doing?
is called Estivation,
Okay.
and it basically just means coming out, waking up, and coming out of hibernation. Since 2012 was the last album that
Okay.
I myself released, so it was time to do another one, and it's been in the works for quite a few years, but this is the year to finally get it out. And
Where are we going to
the world.
find this album? We're going to find it on Spotify, YouTube,
yeah, it will
Apple
be
Music.
everywhere.
So everywhere you're putting it all the way out.
Yes.
And fans, people that are interested in listening to you and hearing you, and the fans that you have are able to go to your website, and when it's ready, they'll be able to go to their music destination to find it.
Yeah, I would say connecting on socials is the way to stay, current on things that are happening. Like I just posted that song teaser just last week with a little video that kind of glows and sparkles or whatever as the song chunk goes along. But you can hear that. There will be other song snippets, in advance of release, of course, that will be out. Just
Okay.
talking about where the songs came from. Having worked with, like, Neil Kernan is the guy that I hired to remix all the songs, and he's got a hell of a resume, having worked with Queensryche and actually the band Queen and Kansas and Yes and a bunch of these classic groups, Hall & Oates, etc.
Wow.
So
if I'm out with my friends and I say, you got to listen to this guy, Tony Williams, what would I say next to direct him right to Tony Williams?
Like
You.
your calendar, and
Yeah.
where is
Yep,
that
and
going to
that-
be? IMTW.
IMTW?
yes, that sits on the
.com.
website
Okay.
too.
IM.
Is it IAM or
IAM.
IAM? Okay,
Yeah.
IAM.
5letters.com.
When's your next gig, and where is it going to be at?
It will be Friday at Bridge Tavern in Crosby.
So up north.
Yep.
When's your next
The
one
local-
down in
Yep.
the cities too?
Saturday
I got
is
a best friend that's from Crosby. I've been up there many times.
yeah, it's a nice area.
They got the
There's
big
like-
old serpent on the lake there.
Aren't there like 3
Gotta watch
people
out
there?
for that thing. They'll bite you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
you-
they all play hockey, so don't you know?
Don't you know?
Yeah.
Saturday is a place
Grapes.
called Tea Buckets in Somerset, which is right next to Stillwater.
Right on.
And then Thursday, May 8th is at Red Fox Tavern, Lakeville.
Okay.
So how about
So
local, like around here? Are you going to play at the Green Mill anytime soon, or?
Or Steel and Hops.
Or I'm sorry,
Can't
not
wait till
not
you
Green
see
Mill,
their-
Still and Hops. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't have anything
Set up there.
right within the little 5-mile radius of where we are right now.
Oh, we're gonna have to go down there and demand
Hey,
an audience.
it's on them for not having ownership of their calendar very good, because that's why I'm not working with them this
Wow,
year or
that's-
last year even.
Wow. You pulled in a lot of people, and it was a lot of fun. So we'll definitely come and see you.
I appreciate that.
We'll look at the calendar. So the folks out there, make sure that you're looking at
IMTW.com.
and making sure you're checking the calendar. Go out and see him when the album pops. Make sure that you're downloading it. You're keeping the music scene alive. And Patrick, as always, thank you for streaming in from Sacramento. It's a big deal to have Patrick here, especially with his expertise in music. film and everything else that he does out there in California. So thank you for being here. And as always, Stacy for being here. Tony, thanks for coming in and
Appreciate the invite,
being
guys.
part of part of the show. And thank you, everybody else. Again, I am Chuck Norris, and this is At the Bar With, and we will see you next week. Thank you, everybody.